The most complex legal issues facing athletes, teams, and leagues today, you could break that into three parts. The legal issues facing athletes are, one could say they are the participants. Without the athletes, there is no sport. And they've got their own agenda. And that is obviously most of them want to be the best they can be in the sport. They're very driven. They've obviously usually grown up with that ambition since they were probably 5 years and above, and money. They can now earn substantial money. A lot of the athletes are funded early on in their careers with funding from lottery. And of course, a lot of other countries have adopted similar sort of funding issues. So with that, athletes, in my view, more often than not now do take legal advice on their contracts, on what their position is, any issues in relation to regulatory matters, on participation, whether they are going to be included or excluded from funding, whether they're going to be included in selection. And we do a lot of that. We advise athletes on really all aspects. I've always, probably since I was in sports law, always probably gravitated more towards the athlete or the coach. That's probably because I enjoy working with those people. It's very inspirational, as well as working obviously with other participants. But I'm a strong believer, really, the athlete or the participant is the king and queen. They need to be looked after, and quite rightly. It's never as glamorous as sometimes it appears. So athletes have all sorts of issues when they get injured, when they retire. And there's obviously a lot of illnesses with athletes, especially with mental illness, just with the pressures and social media. So we've just got an all-round experience, really, of really representing athletes from all angles. In terms of the legal issues facing teams, again, you could almost talk for hours about the issue affecting teams, but teams, it's all about ensuring that they've got the best team available, that the best team is selected, that teams are there to win the competition, to finish top of the league or get to a final. Usually there is less complex matters affecting teams. Sometimes you may find a team might need legal representation. So, say maybe the England football team might need a sponsorship agreement, or the players want to make sure they get a decent cut out of any sponsorship. Sometimes teams are impacted as a team. So for instance, if let's say there was a points deduction for some kind of breach, then clearly that would impact on the team. And again, we've had extensive experience dealing with complex matters where teams have been badly affected by an external decision. And there's a multitude of different ways, really, you could advise a team. It's probably more on the athlete. And then the most common legal issue affecting leagues, again, a huge subject in itself. One may think, don't the leagues really look after themselves? But you only have to have a look really at what happened with the creation of Super League. It was a short-lived 3-day Super League, but the impact of that on the leagues was huge, and not just here in the UK, but massive impact in Italy. And we've recently seen issues, the knock-on effect with Juventus receiving fines and points deduction, and one has to think maybe there's a link there with them breaking rank from the Italian equivalent of the Football Association. And of course, Spain, Barcelona and Real Madrid had joined Super League, and they still got that ambition to do. And that leaves all the other issues with the leagues. And then there was the leagues in terms of UEFA, what's going to happen with the Champions League. And so one has to be ready and armed to move very quickly. One looks back at Super League or the creation of Super League, it was almost a whirlwind 24 hours of an announcement on a Sunday afternoon. By Wednesday afternoon, after mass demonstrations, the notion was killed off, or certainly the English clubs killed off that. But it did have a huge impact on the leagues. One may say, did history repeat itself? Because in 1992, the creation of Premier League was formed, and that had a massive impact on the leagues outside the Premier League, with the Championship running with 3 divisions rather than 4. There's never anything cast in stone with the leagues, and the leagues themselves need to have robust rules and regulations. And at any moment in time, lawyers could be on standby to advise leagues in the same way you would advise athletes and teams.